All right. So all of these four concepts are meant to help the programmer build more robust and modular code. It is supposed to make our lives easier. So it's not necessarily from the user end that they see the whole benefit of it, but it's more on the programmer end that we see the benefit of it. All right. So the simple idea of inheritance is that to make our codes more modular and more robust. So the whole idea is to improve the reusability and also making the structure easy. So let's try to understand the theoretical motivation behind it. So at some point, we all have played some sort of games in our life, right? So if you consider a simple RPG game, let's say it can be GTA or it can be Skyrim. So we usually have different kind of characters, right, in a 3D world. So we have the protagonist who we control. We play the game as the character that's the hero or the whatever, and then we have villains or the antagonist or the boss fight or the enemies, and then we have NPGs, right, which are non-playable character. So all of these game characters have something in common. That is that they have a 3D structure. They can move around. And let's say if they're all humanoids, they will have a head, two hands, 2 feet, and they will have some physics involved. So what do I mean by physics involved? Let's say if any of the character gets thrown off a cliff, they'll die. They'll take damage, and so yeah, basically incorporating physics means that they will be bounded by the law of physics, so they cannot fly. They will take damage if they go into fire or jump off the cliffs. So the reason I'm bringing up this example is that if you are someone who's building a game and you are trying to build all these different type of players, that one is a NPG, non-playable NPC, non-playable character, and there's this protagonist and antagonist. You see, all of them have some things in common, that they are humanoid structure, they are bounded by laws of physics, then they'll have some set of moves, they can move around. So instead of implementing all these attributes and property for each of these three different characters, what you can do is you can build one common class. Let's say you can name it as character, and then you can use that to replicate all these three categories. Are you following? So let's say you build a character class which has this physics, this humanoid structure, all these properties, and then the protagonist, antagonist, and the NPCs can inherit from them. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is one of the whole motivation of using inheritance, so that we can build modular code. So for instance, in games, we do that. We build modules that we replicate. And this is very prominent, especially in games like such as Skyrim, Cyberpunk, where you can customize your own character. So we have a base and we customize upon it, right? So it saves us a lot of time to write the same code for a lot of the same things. So now let's take a more trivial example. So let's say in case you want to store student information, all right? So student information, some things which are common for all students regardless of their department are, let's say, their name, their father's information, mother's information, parental information, their previous academic records, their blood group, and all those, right? So this information will be same across all the students from all the departments, right? Now, we can create a template class for the students and then build upon it. So let's say now if you want to make class for CEC student, then BBA student, then we'll divide accordingly, right? So for CEC students, they will have all the attributes of a student class because that is inheriting the student class. And plus also it will have some extra attributes, such as CEC students will have, let's say, a higher credit limit. So let's say that will be 136. A CEC student might have more number of labs compared to others. Similarly, a BBA student will have, probably a less credit limit to graduate. Then a BBA student might have more number of presentations and group work compared to a CEC student. So we get the idea, right? The whole motivation of using inheritance. So let's now get to the syntax and nitty gritty part. So wait, let me share my screen. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
All right. So there are basically three kinds of inheritance. So let's say if you have a class A and there's a class B that inherits A. So this is called single level inheritance. Makes sense, right? It's a single level inheritance. So whenever we say that class B inherits class A, we mean that class B inherits everything of class A, as in attributes or variables, whatever you wish to call them, and methods as well.
Sir, except
So
the
what?
private one.
No, we inherit the private one as well, but we can access them using uh, parents, getter, and setter methods. Why do you think we won't inherit the private variable? We do
Sir,
inherit them.
we can't access them directly, but using getter or setter, right?
Yes, we do inherit them, but they are locked because they are private. So we have to use the getter setter methods of the parent class if available to access them. All right. So we do inherit them, but we need getter and setter or parent methods to get access to them. And when I say that we inherit attributes and methods, we inherit both instance and class. So we inherit instance attributes and methods, and we inherit class variables and class methods as well. All right. So this is one thing. Another is multi-level. So multi-level means that, let's say, class B inherits class A, and there's another class C which inherits B. So for class C objects, it will inherit both the attributes properties of A and B. And for class B objects, it will inherit everything of class A. All right. So we call this a multi-level inheritance. So basically, for our course of the scope of this course, we'll be looking at single level and multi-level. But if you guys are interested, there's another inheritance which is multiple, which is basically C can inherit both A and B together. And you can tweak around that which constructor to call first. So do I want to call the constructor of A first, or do I want to call the constructor of B first? Which one gets more priority? So there's a nitty-gritty part of it, but we won't be covering that for this lecture. So we'll be focusing on this too. All right. So far, any questions? If not, then I'll be jumping on to the syntax and the other
No, sir.
parts. All right. Uh, okay. So let's go over with some very basic ones. Then we will jump to the lab class. So let's say we have a class A. So here I'm trying to build a relationship that class B is an instance of class A. So basically, I'm trying to tell that B is object is a child of A, right? So whenever we try to do that, we write in brackets the name of the class that we are trying to inherit. So in this case, we are trying to inherit A, so we'll be writing A in the brackets. And let's say just write class here. Let's create an object B1 of B, and we will try to print out the name. So B1 dot name. So what will be the output if I call this?
Sir, if we don't write super dot init, then can we access self dot name?
Yeah, so that is exactly why I'm showing this example. So let's say what we're essentially doing here is just telling my class B that it inherits class A, right? and nothing else. And if I call this, yes, I can get into self.name. So how's it working? It's working because when I write just this, the way Python compiler works is that it by default creates a constructor of B class. And then due to this part, it assumes that since I'm not overriding the constructor that I'm inheriting from my parent, I'll just keep it as it is. So I'll keep it as default. So behind the scene, when I'm calling this b1 equal b, I'm calling this. Make sense? Because I'm not mentioning anything. So by default, what the compiler does is it creates a default constructor for class B, and it calls super inside it. So by super, I mean it's calling my parent constructor. বুঝছি?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so next question is that, let's say, okay, so for everyone else, just reiterating, uh, uh, so let's say if I want to call any method of my parent class, I need to use a keyword called super. All right, super, and then the name of the method that I'm trying to refer to. All right, so in this case, it's my constructor, so I'm writing init. And the reason why I do not have the need to pass self is because super itself creates a temporary object of my parent, so it's already passing out the self. So it's not required of me to implicitly pass self here. All right, so that is why I don't need to write self here. So if I do this, it basically what it does is it is creating a constructor from my class B, and then I'm just calling super in it. So I'm calling the parent constructor here, and if I call it, I'll get the same output, which is class A. All right. Now, what if I do this? And I just write pass here. What do you think the output will be? Sorry? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you say it again?
সে কিছুই আসবে না।
কিছুই আসবে না? Okay, let's see. কিছুই আসে কি আসে না? It's an error. Why are we running into an error? Let's see, can anyone guess?
সে বিকজ এটা কনস্ট্রাক্টরে গিয়ে পাস করে দিয়েছে,
Mm,
কোনো ইনফরমেশন
so,
আর কি অ্যাক্সেস করতে পারেনি।
mm, so you're saying that we wrote pass here, so it's not able to access the information. So are you claiming that the name variable is being created somewhere in class B? Interesting, right? So basically, um, when you write this, it by default creates a constructor, which is the constructor of the parent, right? But when you're explicitly writing def in itself, what you're doing is the constructor that you're inheriting from class A, you are overriding it. Remember, we used to override methods. So we are overriding the method in it. And if I do not, again, explicitly call super, I'm not creating an object of class A here. Therefore, it means that I'm not technically inheriting my object, inheriting class A. And I'm not creating any instance of class A inside class B. So if I do not call super, technically I'm not inheriting it, because I won't be, because only when I call super, I'm actually creating all this stuff, right? And if I don't, then I don't have access to my parent. That is exactly why it's throwing me the error that B object has no attribute name. So if I override the constructor, it's mandatory that my first line should be super dot init. Basically, I'm calling upon the parent class. Because if I'm overriding the init and I'm not calling this, then I'm not inheriting it. So my first line should be calling my parents constructor. So far, are we following?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now if we call this, we will get the name variable. All right. So let's say, okay, so another question. So let's say I'm creating a method here. Let's say it print name. All right. So what it does is it just prints out the self.name. And over here, after I call my parents constructor, I'm writing self.name equal, let's say, class B. All right. And instead of writing this, let's say, okay, so let's say we keep two lines. Let's say b1 dot print name. So for this line, I should get an output, and for this line, I should get an output. Can anyone tell what will be the outputs? For this, I should be getting an output, and for
Sir,
this, I should be getting an output.
class
Hmm.
B, then class A.
Okay, so this should be class B, and this should be
Class
class
A.
A. Any more variations? Does anyone has any different answers?
Sir, my output is showing both class B.
স্যার আমরা ক্লাস বি হবে বোথ কারণ হচ্ছে স্যার এটা তো অ্যাকচুয়ালি রিপ্লেস করে দিচ্ছে অলরেডি
Yes, I wanted you guys to check, not like check by putting it on the code, but intuitively, it will give class B for both of the values. All right, it's because when you call super.init, it's already creating a variable which is self.name, and it has class B. And in the next line, when you're writing self.name equal class B, it's not creating another name variable. It's updating the name variable that's already been created in your parent constructor. So it got updated to class B. So basically, your B1 has a single self.name variable, which is now class B. So it doesn't matter if you call b.name, b1.name, because it's going to refer to the self.name, which is class B. And even if you call print name, which is basically my class B doesn't have it, so it'll refer to the parent's print name. So it will try to access self.name, which is, again, class B. So for that reason, we will get to class B, not class B and class A. All right. It's the same name variable which we are having in our parent constructor. Make sense? All right. So yeah, basically that's it. I think I have covered all the nitty-gritty parts of it. So okay, one more thing. Let's say I'm trying to build a print name here. So let's say now if I call it, what output should I get?
So class B and inside class B.
Yes. All right. So let's say let's say for print name, I do want to print this line, but I also want to print the line of my class A. How do I do that? So let's say when I call print name, I want this statement and this statement. So what do I do?
Super.print name.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. We'll basically call the parent method here. So it's super dot, then the name of the method. So ta-da. All right. So okay. So one important note, drum it inside your head. You cannot mess up here. That is, for all the tasks that you're going to get in inheritance for your lab task or your finals, remember, whenever there's an opportunity to use your parent class of methods, do use them. So let's say over here, instead of writing super.println, we could have just written print self.name. But if you have written this instead of super, that you guys would get penalized for that, because the whole motivation of studying inheritance is that so that you guys can reuse your parents' code, right? So that's the whole idea behind it. So if you need to write the same code again and again without calling your parents' method, that is redundant. All right. So for finals, for your lab task, whenever there's an opportunity to use your parent. Call the parents' method by super. All right. This is a very simple example. That is why we are just needing to write one line. But when your example, whenever the task gets complicated, the lines will increase, and similarly, calling your parent becomes more handy. Muchi? So far, any
Yes.
questions? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. So for Lab 7, we'll be looking at. So I'll be solving two tasks for you, which is
স্যার
task
আমাদের কি
one.
ল্যাব 7 পর্যন্ত থাকবে নাকি ল্যাব 8ও আসবে?
Hopefully, there will be another lab because there's another topic left, that is polymorphism and abstraction. So that is still tentative. We don't know if we'll be able to cover it. So we'll let you guys know. No worries. But expect there's supposed to be another lab 8. All right. Okay. So I'll be explaining task 1 and task 4 because these two are the trickiest, and I'll be showing you the tracing. The other task, hopefully you guys can solve for yourself. If not, just feel free to reach us out. No worries. Okay. So let's look at task 1. Let's read the question description first. The tea company Kazi and Kazi has decided to produce a new line of flavored teas. Design the KKT parent and the KK flavored tea child classes so that the following output is produced. The KK flavored tea class should inherit KKT. Note that an object of either class represents a single box of tea bags. Each tea bag weighs 2 grams. The status of an object refers to whether it is sold or not. All right. So generally in your question, it will not be so explicitly mentioned that which one is the parent, which one is the tea. So by looking at the driver code or the question prompt, you need to pick that up. All right. So far, what are the information we got? Who's the parent? KKT. This is the parent class. And which is the child class? KK flavor tea. Okay, gotcha. Then what are the informations we got? An object represents a single box of tea bags. Okay, makes sense. Then each tea bag weighs 2 grams. And the status of an object refers to whether it is sold or not. Okay. Then let's look at the driver code. We are seeing that we are creating an instance of KKT, T1, and we are sending it a numerical parameter, and we don't know what that is. Then we see this product detail method. It's between separator 1 and separator 2. And we are saying that if I call upon T1.product detail, I'm seeing a bunch of print statements, right? One is name, KK regular T. Makes sense. It's the name of the company or the genre. Then we have weight, which is 100. We still don't have any idea where it's coming from. Then we have T bags, which is equal to 50. Again, no clue where it's coming from. We have price equal to 250. So, okay, we got some sense that this price is probably coming from here, right? Okay, so we can assume that the first parameter to be our price. Then I am calling upon another method, which is kkt.total sales. And for that, I'm getting total sales equal to kk regular t 0, right? So I'm basically printing out a dictionary. This looks like a dictionary, right? Okay. And this does make sense because I just created my tea bag, but I didn't sell it anywhere. So that is why it's still 0. All right. And then I'm creating 2 more instances, which are T2 equal KKT 470 100, and then T3 equal KKT 360 and 75. And then I'm calling upon another method, which is update sold status regular. One thing to note that total sales and update sold status regular, these are what kind of methods?
Class methods.
Class methods. Why? Because these are being called by my class names. All right. Okay. Then when I'm calling t3 dot product detail between separator 4 and 5, I'm saying my name, then I'm getting a weight, which is 150. Then I'm saying tbag equals 75. So where is this 75 coming from? Here, right? So again, we can assume that my second parameter is going to be my number of tbags that is there inside the box. So, and where I'm getting this weight from, remember this clue that each tea bag weighs 2 grams. So if my tea bags is 75, then my weight of the total tea box is going to be 150, right? 75 into 2. And we are getting the price from the first parameter. Okay, gotcha. Then status equal true. Now, one thing to note, for T1, the status was false. And for T3, suddenly my status is true. Can anyone tell what happened between these two lines?
So something is showed and something.
Yeah, you're almost right. So whenever you see a big problem like this in your finals, one way I like to do is that you break down the problem into subsections, right? So let's make it a little easier. So let's say we are considering just the KKT class, right? So what are the possible variables we can see for this class? One is the name.
So silk.name, then silk.weight, then silk.bags, then
Yeah,
silk.price.
bags, price, and forgot we need to check the status as well. All right. So okay, so these are my variables. And what are my methods? I wish I had more space. Let's try a second. I can just copy it to somewhere else. Wait. Okay, this is better. So anyways, give me a second. It's still uploading. All right. So these are my variables. And then what are my methods? We can see one is
Product
product detail
detail,
and two class variables, right? One is this one, another is this one. So just for the sake of knowing that this is a class variable, I'm writing as c dot name of the method. All right. Just for the sake of understanding, it's a class variable. So sorry, class method. So total sales is a class method. Then there is update sold status. Okay. So far, these are all the information that we have in hand. And give me a second. So, all right. So these are the information that we have in hand. So now, interestingly enough, this is my price. But if I'm not sending in my price, and also, wait, this is my bags, right? So over here, when I'm not sending in the bags, what is the default value
default
of my bag?
bags, 50.
It's 50, all right? So that is how we are getting 50, and that is how we are getting weight, because 15 to 2 is 100, all right? So that's there. And my status is by default false, because whenever I'm producing a tea bag, it doesn't necessarily mean it's being sold unless I'm selling it, right? So that is why just after creating T1, my total sales was 0. All right. And then I created two objects, T2, T3, and then I called upon update sold status regular, and I passed on the objects of KKT, right? So we have T1, T2, and T3. So then when I call T3.product detail, everything is predictable other than this. My status suddenly is now true. And why is that? Because if we think a little intuitively, update sold status regular is supposed to do what? It's supposed to sell the objects that we are passing here as parameters, right? So since we are passing the objects T1, T2, T3 as parameters, we can assume that all of these objects are being sold, right? So the way to denote that these objects are sold is that turning the status variable of all these objects from false to true.
So true means sold out, right?
Yeah, true means sold and false means not sold. So false means not sold and true means sold. All right. Again, you need to pick this up intuitively. It's probably not written explicitly anywhere in the question, but by looking at the methods and the flow of the driver code, you need to pick that up. So all right. So one thing in the update sold status regular method is that we need to change the status of all the objects that we are passing in. That is one thing we need to do. And another thing is that when I'm calling kkt.total sales, I'm seeing this line, right? Total sales equal kkt regular equal 3, right? So my
In for
number,
loop, we need to increase it.
yes, by using a for loop, we need to increment it. So from 0, it got incremented to 3, right? And why 3? Because we are passing in 3 instances of KKT, right? T1, T2, and T3. So first, we need to update the status for all of these variables that we are passing in. And then we need to update the dictionary as well. Okay, so for variables, we missed out another thing. We missed out another variable. Can anyone tell what that is? For variables, we have written down all the instance variables, but we missed out one thing. This dictionary that we are seeing every time when we are calling the class method. Don't you think we should have a variable for this as well to keep track of how many teas are being sold? Does this make sense? Are you guys lost? Malay? If it gets
Sir, এটা
confusing
তো
to say,
class
hmm,
class variable হবে না স্যার?
exactly. It will be a class variable. How do we know that? Because it's being popped out from a class method, right? So this is going to be a class variable. So it will be c dot, I don't know. You guys can name it anything you want. I'm naming it as sales track. All right. So in sales track, it's going to supposedly be a dictionary, and where we'll be keeping track of the number of uh, tea bags that are being sold. All right. So far, any confusion? So we have
না
so
স্যার।
we know. So one thing I recommend you guys to do, if this is how you are comfortable, is that first lay out, make a map of everything you need to do. So for example, this task is a little big one, right? So that is why mapping it out becomes easier. So how do you map it? Under KKT, what do we have? We have all the variables. What are the variables? Name, weight, bag, price, status, and one class variable, which is sales track. And under the methods, what do we have? We have an instance method, product details, and then two class variables. One is total sales, and another is update sold status. All right. So okay, can you excuse me for 2 minutes? I'll be back. Okay. Uh, yeah, I hope I'm audible. Sorry for the interruption.
Yes, sir.
All right. So yeah, so basically, easy way out is to map everything out. What are the instance and class variables you need? What are the instance and class methods you need? So then start coding. That way you'll have a bird's eye view of whatever that you're trying to do, and it gets difficult to get lost. All right. So before jumping into the child classes, let's first build this one, KKT. All right. So all right. So for KKT, okay,
স্যার
for
নেম কি
before,
ডিফল্ট থাকবে না একটা?
yeah, it will be default. It will be default. So, okay, for first, let's write out just the methods that we need to do. So one was product detail. Then, yeah, there was this product detail and there was other two class methods. So one class method was total sales. I'm just writing them as pass because I just want to lay out the structure first before I jump into the nitty-gritty details. So what was another class method? Total sales and update sold status regular. All right. So we have a structure here. Okay. So now let's start filling out going over the basics. So what are the basics? We have a bunch of variables and we need to write them up. So for the constructor, we can see that we will always be passing the first parameter, and it's going to be the price. And we might or might not have the second parameter, which is going to be the bags, right? So over here, I'll write price and bags. Since it's a default variable, I'll assign it as what? 50, right?
50.
All right. So, and the name will be default. It's KK regular T. Then we will have price. That will be just the price that I'm getting from the parameter. Then I'll have bag. I'll just write bags. And then we'll have weight. Now weight is calculated based on the
Bags
number of
into
bags.
2.
Yeah, bags into two. And then we will have another one, which is
Sir, status.
status.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So it will be false. Did I miss anything? Name, weight, bag, price. Nope. 5 of them. That's right. We have them. And we also need a class variable to keep the track of the sales, right? So I can just name it sales and keep it in an empty dictionary. Um,
So then
right.
we need to keep the track for like how much sale we have done, like 1, 2, 3.
Yes, we need to keep them. Oh, another thing, let's not keep it empty here, because if we just keep it empty, after t1.product detail, when I will be calling kkt.total sales, I will get total sales and just an empty dictionary. And that is not what the output is given as, right? The output is expected to have a key, which is kk regular t, and then a value which is 0, right? So I need to put this value by default as well. So let me just copy it from here. And it will be like this. All right. So this is my default value. My class variable starts from this value. All right. And then what is product detail? Product detail just prints out everything that's there. So it will be name, self.name. Then, sorry. And then what? Weight, I guess. And then I'll have weight per kilowatt. Yeah, I had tea bags, bag, and then I had
The
price,
price.
I guess.
Yeah.
and then I had status. All right. So I'm done with my product details. It just prints out everything. And then what does my total sales do? It just prints out sales, right? So this will be print total sales and class.sales. Simple. And I'm done. Now the tricky part is to get this done, update sold status. So what are we expected to do in this method? First, we need to change status for all the T objects that are being sent, that are being sent into my parameter. So this is one thing we need to do. And another thing is, give me a second. And another thing is what? I need to update my sales variable, right? So these are the two of the things that I need to get done in this method. All right. So give me a second. I think I wrote it in the wrong spot. All right. So these are two of the things I need to do. So firstly, I don't know how many objects are going to be passed to this method. So I'll just
Args.
start args. There you go. And then to get access to each of the objects, I need to use a for loop on those on this args, right? So I can write for tbags. You can write ix, whatever you wish, but I'm writing tbags because essentially these are just objects of my KKT, right? So args. And so let's do the first thing, that is changing the status for all the T objects. So I can just simply write tbags. So let's make it singular. tbag.status equal true. So I'm changing it to true because once the object is being sent into this method, it means that that object is sold, right? So I'll change my status from false to true. Next step. Okay, so far.
So CLS dot.
Yeah, CLS what?
So এরপরটা তো CLS দিয়ে চেঞ্জ করবো না?
This part.
না স্যার, ওই যে ডিকশনারি পার্ট।
Yeah, we'll be using CLS. So we got our first thing right. So this is done. Next thing is to update my sales variable, which is a class variable. So I'll write class dot sales, then the key which I'm updating. So it will be KK regular T class equal 1. So far makes sense. এতটুকু পর্যন্ত কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন আছে?
No, sir.
Okay. So let me comment out the rest of the part over here because I haven't implemented the child class yet. So let's just call upon the parent one. Yeah. Okay. So where was I? All right. So if I call them, I'll be getting my output, hopefully. Yeah. So it's working, right? So now let's jump to the, okay, so again, once again, does anyone has any question? Because if I jump to the child class, it will get more confusing. So before jumping on, does anyone has any question?
No, sir.
Okay. So yeah, basically the next thing I need to do is just build my child class. So over here that my child class is KK flavor T. And we can see that for all of these instances, I'm passing on 3 parameters. So it's Jasmine. So we can assume it's the name, then price, and then my tea bag, right? And for T5 and T6, it's honey lemon, 270, 270, 45, 45. So when I'm calling product detail for T4, It's between separator 7 and 8. So let's go there. We are seeing the name is KK Jasmine Tea. So this was our name. So we won't be using our default name, which was KK regular tea. And then we have our weight, which is 100. It comes from 15 to 2. And we have our tea bags, 50. And then price 260. And we have our status equal false, obviously. And then let's come down a little more. We can see between lines separators 9 and 10. We see that we are calling in another method, which is update sold status flavored. All right. And this is again a class variable of KK flavor tea. And I'm passing in T4, T5, and T6. And when I'm calling KK T.total sales, I'm getting what? I'm getting the dictionary. And over here, I'm not just getting the sales for KK regular tea, but I'm also getting sales for KK jasmine tea, KK honey lemon tea. All right. So since jasmine tea was only one, because jasmine just one, and honey lemon tea where there were two tea bags, right? T5 and T6. That is why when I sold them, I got two. Makes sense? So when we are designing my KK flavor tea, I need to adjust my constructor. All right. So I can pass in these two values inside my parent constructor, but I need to handle this separately. All right. So how do I do that? So for the objects of KK flavor tea has three parameters, right? One is the name, then price, then bags. So the first job is to call the constructor. And what will I pass in this constructor? I'm basically calling the constructor of KKT, right? So what are the values that I'll be passing in? Guys, to respond, Corey?
Sir, price,
Good. Price. And what's your
bags.
bags? আর নেমটা তো আমার চেঞ্জ করতে হবে, right? So এটা কেমনে চেঞ্জ করব? How do I change that? We write it as self.name. Basically, we're updating this KK regularity right now. So if I simply just write self.name equal name, will this do? It won't. Why? Because I'm just passing jasmine and honey lemon, right? But if we look at the output, we see as KK, then the name, and then the tea, right? So over here, this name is just the flavor. So I need to format it a little bit. So I'll add KK over here. And at the back, I'll add tea. All right. So I just updated my name. That's it. So I'm done with the constructor. Then what? We have another class variable, which is flavored, which is update sold status flavored, right? Let me copy it. So this is obviously going to be a class method. So that's a class method. And before jumping into this, so basically, what is this method supposed to do? Update sold status flavor. It is supposed to update the same dictionary that we got here, and assign new key, right? So for example, for T1, T2, T3, there were all the same genre, the same category, the same flavor, which was regular, right? But now we're introducing other flavors as well, which are jasmine and honey lemon. And for jasmine and honey lemon, we need to add more distinct keys for it, right? So if I just simply write super dot update. Why is the suggestion not coming? Update soul status regular. Will this work? Guys, আমরা কি lost? আচ্ছা, লস্ট হলে বলি কোত্থেকে লস্ট, আমি ওখান থেকে আবার এক্সপ্লেন করবো, প্যারা নেই। কি ব্যাপার, সবাই এত চুপ কেন? আচ্ছা, ওকে।
স্যার এই
আইদার
আরেকবার একটু
বলেন
আহ,
কোন পার্টটা?
স্যার এই ক্লাস মেথডটা থেকেই স্যার আপডেট সোল স্ট্যাটাস ফ্লেভার।
আচ্ছা, এর আগ পর্যন্ত কি সব বুঝছেন?
জি স্যার, মোটামুটি বুঝছি।
আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে। সো বেসিকলি এই জিনিসটা কি করবে, এই জিনিসটা হচ্ছে আমার একটা ডিকশনারি আছে না, সেলস। তো এখানে তো জাস্ট মানে আমার কিগুলো কি ছিল, কেকের রেগুলারিটি এটার জন্য 0, তাই না? বাট ফ্লেভারটিতে তো আমি ডিফারেন্ট ডিফারেন্ট ফ্লেভারের টি অ্যাড করতেছি, যেমন একটা হচ্ছে জ্যাসমিন, একটা হচ্ছে হানি লেমন। তো ওদের জন্য আমার তো বেসিক্যালি ডিফারেন্ট কি অ্যাসাইন করতে হবে এখানে, তাই না? সো আমার কোয়েশ্চেন হচ্ছে যে আমি যদি যে সেখানে সুপার কল দিই, আমার প্যারেন্টের আপডেট সোল স্টেটাস রেগুলারকে কল দিই, আমি কি মানে ডিজায়ার্ড আউটপুটটা পাবো? সেটা হচ্ছে আমার কোয়েশ্চেন।
স্যার আই গেস নট।
ইয়া, ডেফিনেটলি নট। কারণ হচ্ছে কি, আমার প্যারেন্টে কি হচ্ছে, জাস্ট কে কে রেগুলার টি এর আন্ডারে +1 করতেছে, তাই না? তো আমি যদি এখানে মানে রিগার্ডলেস অফ জ্যাসমিন পাঠায়, হানি লেমন পাঠায়, ও অ্যাকচুয়ালি কাকে ইনক্রিমেন্ট করবে? কে কে রেগুলার টি কে, বুঝছি?
জি স্যার, মানে আগেরটা কি আর কি।
আগেটাকে। বাট ওইটা হ্যান্ডেল করা যাবে, বাট এটা ছাড়া একটা ঝামেলা আছে। দ্যাট ইজ, আমি যদি এখানে জাস্ট আর্টস পাঠাই, হ্যাঁ, তাহলে কি হবে? তাহলে হচ্ছে আমার কে কে রেগুলার টিটা জাস্ট এক এক করে বাড়বে, তাই না? এই তো, এটাই তো হওয়া উচিত, তাই না?
জি স্যার।
বাট এটা একটা এরর দিবে। If I just write this, we are expecting that my মানে status will get true, that is true for T4, T5 and T6, and we are expecting that my KK regular T count will increase, but instead we will run into an error. So let's see. আমি কি এখানে কোনো ফর লুপ ইউজ করছি? এক সেকেন্ড। ও আচ্ছা, রাইট।
ইয়া স্যার, নিচের ড্রাইভার কোডগুলো। ইয়া
এক সেকেন্ড, এররটা খাবো এখন। কি রে, খেলাম না কেন? খাওয়া তো উচিত ছিল। Stupid me. Sorry, I didn't inherit it. I forgot to do this. Now if I call, what the heck? এক সেকেন্ড। Okay, this is weird. এক সেকেন্ড। Give me a second. It's probably because it's running the code from a stored cache memory. So I need to restart my session and run on. So give me a second. So the thing with Colab Notebook is that it has a lot of cache memory, and sometimes, when we are expecting some error, it will not do that because it's run from my cache memory. So give me a second. So it's KK flavored tea. What did I do wrong? All right. So, ta-da, we have our error. So yeah, so it's giving me an error, which is tuple object has no attribute status, right? Now, why is that? So basically, uh, it's so important that you guys understand this because it's a tricky problem. So when we are passing over here T4, T5, and T6, all of these objects are being passed on as what? As a tuple, right? So this args is essentially what? A tuple. And again, when I'm sending in this tuple over here, this is again being wrapped up another by another tuple. So when it's being received by my parent over here, it's basically getting a tuple which has another tuple inside it, which contains T4, T5, and T6. So what's
স্যার
happening?
T1 T2 T3 এর ক্ষেত্রে কি কি হয়েছে তাহলে?
That's a good question. Uh, for T1, T2, and T3, I was directly calling upon this method. So during for T1, T2, T3 in args, we were just getting one tuple which had T4, T5, and T6 because I was directly calling upon this method. But for in case of my child, my child is first calling what? Update flavored one, right? I'm not writing the whole name because I'll run out of space. So
Yes, sir.
so the child is first calling upon update flavored, and there I was just passing T4, T5, and T6, which instead was calling upon update regular. And since regular is also taking in all the values as a tuple, this is already a tuple. And since I'm passing this arg over here, this, on the other hand, is taking this tuple as a value inside its own tuple. So it's basically creating a nested tuple because of the chain call that we are creating here.
স্যার বুঝতে পারছি।
All right. For my child, it was not an issue because I was directly calling this. But sorry, this is my bad. So for my child, it was not an issue because I was directly calling upon the regular one. But for my parent, it was not an issue because I was calling upon the regular one. But for my child, it's an issue because it's calling upon another function inside it, and so thus the nested tuple. So for my child, since it's a nested tuple, for zero number index, it's getting this whole tuple. And when I'm writing for tbags in args, what I'm getting essentially over here is a tuple that contains T4, T5, and T6, and not individually T4, T5, and T6. Which is why when I'm trying to call tbag.status, it's throwing me the error that tuple has no attribute status. All right. So yeah, that's why I'm getting there. So one way to fix it is that instead of doing this, what I can do is I can use a for loop. So I can write tbag in args and then call this. All right. So this should solve that problem. But the problem still remains what? It's only updating my kk regular t, and it's just incrementing that. But I don't want that, right? I want to increment it based on the name of the tbag, right? So to do that, what we can do is over here, instead of just writing this, what we can do is we can create a key. All right. So key will be the tbag underscore dot name. All right. Then we'll see if key sorry, give me a second. All right. So yeah, if key not in sales, then I'll do what? I'll just simply write class.sales key equal 1. Else I'll do this. So it's basically, over here what I'm trying to do is I'm just basically extracting the name of the key bag, and I'm checking if that name is not present in my dictionary, I'll create a new key corresponding to that name, and I'll assign 1 to it. And if it is already present in my dictionary, then I'll just increment it. All right. And instead of passing over here KK regularity, I'll be passing key. All right. So if you do this, then the code gets robust. So let's see now. So yeah, there you go. We have our values. Any question with this task?
So we could have also changed the parent class method, right? Like we can check for if
You mean
args is length
you mean-
1 and then work from there.
in the parent, as in this one, KKT?
Yes, sir. The update method.
Okay, so you're proposing that, let's say if oh, I see. So if you're basically trying to say that if length of my args is 1, you will assume that it's being called from my child, right?
Yes, sir.
So here's a problem with this. What if I just pass over here T1? Then what? Do you see the backlog? So if you check the length, it will be 1, right? So I'm just sending in 1 parameter. বুঝছি ঝামেলাটা
got it.
করে? Yeah. So yeah, এই আর কি. So no, but that's a nice thing. It's a good proposition, but ওই একটা flaw. আচ্ছা, okay, let's go to task number 4. So task number 4 a second. Okay, so task number 4, we can see there it's not as descriptive as the previous one. It's just written write the mango and jackfruit classes so that the following code generates output. So it's very likely that your finals question will look like this. It won't have much of description, so you need to pick up which one is the parent, which one is the child, and what to do. All right. So over here we can see that we have a fruit class object which has 2 variables. One is formalin, another one is name. All right. And the default values for formalin is false, and for name is just an empty string. And then we have get name, which returns the name, and we have has formalin, which returns the variable formalin. All right. Then we can see we have another class which is test fruit, and it has basically it has 1 method which is test. What it does, it's taking in a parameter f. We don't know what f yet is, and we can see that it has a bunch of conditional statements. So if f dot has formalin, I'm going to print do not eat the f dot get name. So from here we can induce that f is an object, right? F is an object of what? Fruit class. How do I know that? Because I'm calling get name, and for this task the only class that has get name is fruit, right? Because fruit has get name. So I can clearly safely deduce that f will be an object of fruit class. All right. And if this is false, then I'll print out eat that fruit, print that, and then I'll be just printing out the object. All right. Okay. So, and if my formalin's value is true, I'll be entering this, and if my formalin's value is false, I'll be entering this. Makes sense, right? If a fruit has formalin, I won't be eating it. So that is why I do not eat the fruit. And if I don't have formalin, which is false, I'll be eating the fruit, right? Okay. Now let's look at the driver code. We are seeing that we are creating 2 objects. One is of mango, another one is of jackfruit, right? And then we created an object of test fruit, which is T1. and then calling the test methods on both of the objects, on the mango and the jackfruit run. So for T1, we can see that T1.test equal M. I'm passing in the M here, and I'm getting what? Printing detail. Where is it coming from? It's coming from this line. All right. And then I'm saying what? Do not eat the mango. Mangoes are bad for you. So can anyone tell for mango object, which conditional state block did I enter? Did I enter if or did I enter else? By just looking at this.
So has formalin.
Yeah, I'm entering the if block because do not eat f dot get name. So mango জন্য এটাই হবে তাই না? So for mango it had entered if block. So what does it tell me? It tells me that the default value for mango formalin will be what? True, right? Absolutely বুঝছি। And and another thing is mango will be an child of what? Fruit class. Well, how do I know that? Because when I am sending in m as a parameter here, right? And m goes to this part, and when I call m dot has formalin, for this thing to work, m needs to be a child of fruit. Because otherwise, if m is not a child of fruit, it won't have the has formalin method. That is how I can deduce that mango should be a child of fruit class. So far, are we following?
जी सर।
Okay. So that's for mango. And if you look at jackfruit, we can see that we are getting eat the jackfruit. Jackfruits are good for you. So again, since we are seeing the similarity eat the and the name of the fruit, we can deduce for jackfruit, the formalin value will be false and the name will be jackfruit. All right. So let's do that. Let's write it down somewhere. All right. So let's first build the mango class. And it will inherit what? Fruit class. All right. So if you look at the mango constructor, is it taking anything? Nope. So I'll keep it empty. And I'll call upon the parent constructor here. And when I call upon the parent constructor, what will the values of formalin and name be? For mango, the formalin value needs to be true for it to enter the if block, right? So I'll be just sending here true. And what will be the name? It will be mango, right? Simple. Now, let's just keep jackfruit aside for now. Okay, so if I call this, do you think I'll get the exact output that I'm thinking I should be getting? All right, so for mango, what I'm saying, do not eat the mango. So Tera successfully worked because I'm passing true as the formalin value, right? So I'm getting do not eat the mango. But then I'm getting a very weird hexadecimal value. What is this? It's the memory address of my mango object, which is m. And where is it coming from? It's coming from this print statement, because over here, f means what? F means m, right? So over here, f means m. And if I call this, what I'm essentially doing is I'm calling print m. And this again means what? That I'm calling upon the toString method. So I'm basically calling this one, right? So whenever we print a reference of an object, what we are actually calling is the toString method of that object. And by default, this toString method returns a memory location. All right. But clearly, we can see that we don't want the memory location here. We instead want what? Mangoes are bad for you. So what do we need to do? We need to override the toString method. How do I do that? I write def toString pass on self, and I do what? Return mangoes are bad for you. So now if I call this, I'll be getting the output as expected. All right. Any questions with this task?
So we also have to make the make a str method for the jackfruit also, right?
Yes. So for jackfruit, can you tell me what are the going to be the differences? Will
Jackfruits are
this
good for
will
you.
this be true or false?
It will be false.
All right, because jackfruits are good for you. That is what the output says, and this will be jackfruit, and and the toString method for jackfruit class will be jackfruits are good for you, right? So yeah, that is it. So I'll leave that up to you to do that. And basically, all the other tasks 2 and 3 are very similar, and 5, 6, 7 these are not as complicated as task one because in task one. You basically need to update a class variable across the child objects as well. So these are very similar. I highly encourage you guys to try it out for yourself uh, because that will eventually help your problem solving skills. And of course, if you guys end up getting stuck, feel free to reach us out. All right. These are simple. The descriptions are already given here on what to do and what not. And if you guys still get stuck, reach us out. No worries. All right. So now I'll be showing you the tracing problem. It's a big one, so do not get scared, but it's also an easy one. So wait, I have it somewhere. Okay, so before I jump to the tracing, any questions so far? Jaja Dixie Vilani?
No, sir.
All right. So पहले tracing is over there. Excellent. হিজিবিজি গুলো সরে কেন না? আচ্ছা, excellent. Dang. Select condition. Alright. When does your quiz start? 5:30, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So okay. Hopefully, I'll not be
Sir,
taking
I
long.
guess
You guys can
attendance
see.
নিলে একটু ভালো হতো যে।
Attendance is automated, so no worries. I'm taking it using an extension or two, so that's taken. No worries. Acha. Okay. I'll still request all of you to see at least until I generate 2 outputs. Then you guys can leave if you wish. So no worries. But just at least see the beginning of how to do it. So all right. So we have 2 classes here. We have class A, class B. You can clearly see that B is inheriting A. And then again, for
Yes,
both
sir.
of the class, we have 2 class variables. So let's write them down. So for class A, we have temp equal 4. And then for class B, we have class variable x, which is 0. Okay, so we got those down. And then we'll jump to the driver code. So in driver code, we can see that first we are creating an object called A1, right? So let's reference it here somewhere. Let's call it Dhaka. All right. So now let's create Dhaka over here. So we will be basically calling upon the constructor of class here, right? So this one. So we can see that we have two instance variable. One is sum and another is y, both being assigned initiated with 0. And then sub dot y equal to a dot 10 minus 2. So it will be 4 minus 2, 2. And sub dot sum is a dot 10 plus 1. So it will be 4 plus 1, 5. Okay. And then we have a dot 10 minus equal to. So it will be 2, right? I'm just updating the class variable. So I'm done with this one. Then I'll be executing this line, which is b1 equal b. So let's refer it as b1 as cheetah. All right, let's go down. So I'll be basically calling upon this one over here. So we have self here, and then what? I'm calling the parent. So my parent is a, right? So I'll be calling the constructor of my parent, which is a. So I'll be creating two values again, which is one is sum, another is y, both assigning with 0, 0. And then we have self dot y equal to a dot temp minus 2. So currently my temp value is 2, right? So 2 minus 2 is 0. And my sum is a dot temp plus 1. So my current temp value is 2. So 2 plus 1 is 3. All right. And then I'm going to update my temp value as a dot temp minus equal to. So 2 gets reduced to 0. All right. And then I'll come back to this line, which is self dot sum equals 0. So my 3 gets replaced with 0. And then we have another local variable, which is b, right? And what will be the value of b? Over here, am I passing anything here in my parameter? No, right? So since I'm not passing anything, so my default value of b will be none. Okay. All right. So since b is equal to none, I'll be entering the if block. All right. So basically there are two blocks here. One is if, another one is else. So since my b is equal none, I'll be entering the if block. And then what's the next line? It's self dot y equal a dot m plus 3. So what's the value of a dot m? It's 0. So 0 plus 3 is 3. So my self dot y is 3. And then self dot sum is equal to 3 plus a dot temp equals 0. So a dot temp is basically 0. So my self dot sum value is 5. All right. And then a dot temp minus equal to. So my this value will get reduced to minus 2. All right. So I'm done with this line as well. Now I'll be calling this line, which is b2 equal b, and then I'm passing the parameter b1. All right. So if I create another reference here, let's name it Rajshahi. All right. All right. So again, the same steps. I'll be calling for Rajshahi. I'll be calling my parent. So if I do, I'll get sum and y initialized as 0, and my y value is basically a dot temp minus equal to. So my a dot temp value is minus 2. So my y will be negative 4, and my sum will be a dot temp plus 1. So it's negative 2 plus 1. So it will be negative 1. And then I'll be reducing the value. So it will become minus 4. All right. So, okay, I got my value. Then the next line is sub dot sum equals 0. So it is Rajshahi dot sum equals 0. So it gets 0. Now, will I enter the if or the else block for Rajshahi? So for Rajshahi, my b, yeah, my b is pointing to b1, which is Chittagong. So I'll be entering the else block here. All right. So something to note that in the else block, we can see that we are calling upon another function here. And generally, such functions call are given to perplex you and to make you get lost, right? So whenever you see that from one function, another function is being called, always do this. Write it down somewhere. So you're currently in what? Rajshahi's init, right? And from Rajshahi's init, where are you calling? b dot method b, and b is what over here? Chittagong, right? So you're calling Chittagong dot method b. So if you write it like this, it's hard for you to get lost. All right. So all right. So let's go line by line. Again, we see self dot sum equal b dot sum. All right. So what is b here? It's Chittagong. It's basically Rache dot sum equal Chittagong dot sum. So Chittagong dot sum is 5. So basically, Rache dot sum will be what? 5. All right. And we have b dot x equal b dot x. So it means that Chittagong dot x, right? So does Chittagong has any x? Does it has any instance variable which is x?
No, sir.
No. So it will refer to the class variable x. So it basically means b dot x equal to b dot x. So it will just get replaced by its own value. All right. And then we will call this line, which is Chittagong dot method b. All right. So I'll open another section here, which is method b. And if we look at method b, what are the local variable at a glance? M, N, and Y, right? So put in the values M and Y. And what is M and N? It's 2 and 3, right? It's 2, 3, and Y is 0, all right? So Pilam, Halagotha, Apaki, Y equal to Y plus self dot Y. So what's the value of self dot Y? It's 3, okay? Then b dot x equal to self dot y, which is 3 plus a dot m. What is the value of a dot m? Minus 4. So 3 plus 2 minus 4 is 1. So I'll update x as 1. All right. Then I have another self dot method b. So over here, what is the self? It's basically Chittagong, right? Because I'm calling method b from Chittagong. So over here, I'll chain it up again. It's basically Chittagong dot method a, right? Okay. So now I'll be jumping on to method a. Now, does Chittagong has any method a?
Yes, sir.
Where?
Sir, class 8A.
Yeah, it's in class A, but it's not in class B. So I'll be referring to the method A of my parent,
Yes,
which
sir.
is this one. All right. So again, let's see what are the parameters here. B dot x is basically 1, and y is 3, right? So these are my parameters. So for method A, my m value will be 1 and my n value will be 3. All right. So let's open another branch here. So it will be m, n, and x, right? Which will be 1, 3, and 0. Okay. So now let's proceed with the next lines. Self dot y equal to self dot y. So it's basically 3, I suppose. Yeah, it's 3. It's 3 plus 1 plus, what is the value of a dot n? I think it's minus 4. Yeah, it's minus 4. So in self dot y, I'll get 0. Then a dot n plus equal 1. So minus 4 will become minus 3. And then we have x equal x plus 1 plus n. So x is 0. N is 3. So I'll be getting 4 for x. Then I have self dot sum equal to self dot sum. What is self dot sum? It is 5. X is 4. And for self dot y, it's 0. So I'll be getting 9 for self dot sum. All right. And then I'm going to print out. So what is the value of x? It's 4. Then self dot y is 0 and self dot sum is 9. All right. Now what line do I execute next? So I'm done with printing the last line of method A. Now where do I start from? Where do I get back? That is why it's important to keep track. So we were at what? Method A, right? So I'll be coming back to method B now. All right. So this is done. So if I come back to method B, so I'll be landing here basically. Wait a second. Remove all this gibberish. I'll be basically landing back here, right? Because I'm done with method A, so I'll be landing back to line number 35. So what is it in line number 35? It's self.sum equal b dot x, so basically it's 1 plus y. What's the value of y? It's 3 because I'm inside method B. So it's 3. And then I have sum, which is 9, right? So I'll be getting what? 13, right? So my sum will get updated to 13, all right? And then I'll be printing out the values. So again, I'll print out b dot x. So what is b dot x? B dot x is 1. What's the value of y? It's 3. And what's the value of sum? It is 13. All right. So now where do I get back to? I get back to my constructor because I'm done with Chittagong method B as well. So if I get back to my constructors, I'll be landing back on line number 29. And basically I'm done with my constructor because there's no more line to execute. All right. So that is how we keep track of this multiple method calling from one method to another. All right. We write it. We if you want, you can write them like this, or if you want, you can keep track it in your own mind if that's what you're comfortable with. But if you're writing it down, there's less chance of messing up with the references. So that is one benefit of writing it down. You have the track of the references. All right. So what's the next line? The next line is b1 dot method A. All right. So I'll just be calling method A of Chittagong again. So I'll be calling method A again. And what are my parameters? 1 and 2. And my x is initialized as 0. So if I go back up, I'll be getting this. So self.y is self.y. So what is the value of self.y? It is 0. And we have m as 1. Yeah, m as 1. And a.temp as -3. So I'll be getting -2 for y, self.y. And then I'll be decrementing the value of a.temp. So it will become -2. Sorry, I'll be incrementing it. Sorry, my bad. And then what's the value of x? It will be 0 plus 1 plus, what's the value? It is 2. So I'll be getting 3 for x. All right. And then for cell.sum, I'll be getting cell.sum, which is 13. For x, I'll be getting what? 3, right? And for cell.-5, I'll be getting -2. So I'll be ending up with 14 for cell.sum. And then I'll be printing out the values. So what will I get? For x, I'm getting what? 3, I guess. Yeah, I'm getting 3. For cell.y, I'm getting -2. And for sum, I'm getting 14. All right. So basically, the next ones are easy as well. You just execute method B for Rache, and from method B you call method A. That's it. But rest of the steps are easy. So far, if all of this makes sense to you, you understood, then the next line should be easy. All right. So any questions?
No, sir. বুঝতে পারছি।
All right. ঠিক আছে। আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, যদি আর কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন না থাকে, you guys may leave. Attendance now হয়ে গেছে।
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Best of luck for you, please. Yes, you're welcome.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম। হ্যাঁ বলেন। একটা কাইন্ডলি আমাকে ডিএম করে রাখতে পারবেন, তাহলে মনে থাকবে আর কি। আমি যখন আপডেট করবো তখন মনে থাকবে। একটু কাইন্ডলি ডিএম করে রাখেন একটা।